No mai, hoki mai to the Planting Seeds podcast. In this next episode, we have a returning guest, Hone Harawira. And in this episode, we talk about Hui Tāne, a national Māori men's mental health and wellbeing event that he put the call out for. And when Hone Harawira puts the call out, you answer. We talk about the why behind Hui Tāne, his own challenges that he has gone through, why it is close to home, the insights of his 52-year marriage, as well as what he sees in this next generation. Nō reira, are mai o taringa, and I hope you enjoy this episode with Hone Harawira. Planting Seeds whānau, welcome back to the show. Here up in Kaitaia and part of Hui Tāne, a kaupapa that Papa Hone has orchestrated because of his own reasons that we're about to get into. But Papa Hone, no mai hoki mai ki te Planting Seeds podcast.
Kia ora, boy. Kia ora.
Awesome to be in your neck of the woods again, here in Kaitaia.
Happy to be here. Love what you do. Love what you do.
And I think, bro, rolling off the back of our previous conversation, a lot of people really resonated with your approach to just how you go about things, your attitude towards standing your ground, being unapologetic, and being here at a kaupapa such as Hui Tāne, which is for Tāne Mental Health and Wellbeing. Why is this kaupapa so important to you?
Yeah, well, I have that too close to home, some of it. Lost my mokopuna to suicide, and we shattered the whole family, all of that, and still feeling it. But beyond that, just knowing how sometimes, and it doesn't take much, a man, he has an argument with his missus, and he doesn't know how to respond without getting angry and punching her or something. Or he's not allowed to see his kids, or he feels ranga tiratanga in his soul, but he's at a job where he gets treated like that. All of this sorts of stuff, and how sometimes that puts us in men. I don't know what it's like for women, but men anyway, puts us into some pretty dark spaces, eh? And I just want to hear what everybody's doing, because there's some wonderful stuff out there. It's not all the same. There isn't one path. There isn't one path to healing and to Hawaii ki hau. We all have our own visions of what that might be and how we might get there. And we all know different ones who are specialists at Maurako, and they're great teachers of it. There are others who, kapahaka is their soul, and that's their world. And for some people, that's a path. And it doesn't matter whether it's even that Kiwi Daddy's website, where men get on and tara and hear from other brothers what they're thinking, tara. So there's so much happening in our world, and sometimes I just think that Māori men are squeezed between trying to be something good and strong from our history and our world, and also being in a Pākehā world where they don't really give a damn about us at all, and would often use us to try and downplay the rights of our women and our children. All that kind of stuff, and how sometimes we're squeezed by that. And my aim, a couple of my aims, and I've talked to Auckland about this a number of times. One of them is to get a 0800 number. Where proper people answer it. I mean,
a helpline there.
Yeah, but a helpline for brothers. So that, I wouldn't be on that. They'd bring me out and say, "Oh boy, harden up." That's not the answer.
No.
Yeah, and I know from having talked to some brothers, a lot of it is just being the ear.
That's right.
They just want to talk, And, you know, they start off really, really angry, but if you just let them talk, sometimes by the end of them talking, they've talked themselves into a really calm space. And then they look at you and they go, oh, you know, and they're happy for it.
That load's been lifted, ne?
Yeah.
Mm.
So there's many, many ways that we can help. But I want that line so that any brother anywhere in the country who's feeling that darkness, you know, can make that call. And there'll be somebody, one of us, who answers it. Or some trained people through Hui Tāne who can do that. And to talk to them about, you know, find out who they are, where they live, and da-da-da-da. And then using this network, ring somebody else. Say, bro, can you pop down the road and see so-and-so? So I don't really know him. I was like, doesn't matter. I'm asking you to. He just needs a brother. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's the thing that's opening up at the moment that I'm even noticing within my own friend circles is that there's that kōrero around, you know, kōrero and talk. But as you're saying, there's a lot of our tāne who are feeling that squeeze and that pressure.
Yeah.
So talking feels like such a big step
Yeah.
for a lot of our tāne who may be in that space that you're talking about. And so that kōrero around us as friends, as whānau, I feel a lot of our responsibility is about listening, is about being observant to some of those tohu so that we can get in there. Because getting in there as someone who perhaps isn't in the same space, it feels like it can take a lot to be like, okay, I need to interject here. I need to step in here because one, you might even be missing the signs. And then even if you do, knowing about it even is really difficult. So I think we're on two sides here where it's hard for the person who's feeling squeezed and it can be challenging for the person who isn't. And so that's probably a combination as to why we are where we are. But to double back to losing someone so close and all still feeling the mamai, how can we best deal or work through that mamai as men? You know, because grief is something that we have been so used to pushing down. And so for you and your experience, how have you been able to work through that?
I have to say I'm kind of lucky. He was, because my moko was a very sporting fella, kapahaka, diving, fishing, all that kind, you know what they're like. And a very happy-go-lucky boy, right from when he was a kid. And there are so many clips of him right from when he was a baby, right till just before he passed away. And they're good, positive things. You know, here's my boy trying to show off to a girl he's interested in, you know, or whatever. There's all these other things. And you see him, and I see a photo of him with the cheeky look in his eye that he always had. So I'm kind of lucky that there are so many images and stories about him, and 99% of them are uplifting, very positive. So it means I am reminded of him with a smile. And mind you, it took a while before that started to happen. It's been gone about 4 or 5 years now, but in the first couple of years, you know, it was just, for me, just absolute depression. But now, you know, one of my mokopunas will send me a photo of him that I hadn't seen, or somebody else will send me a photo of him doing something, and they're laughing about what an idiot he was, and all that stuff. So
it's about remembering the good, eh?
Yeah.
Remembering those positive memories.
Think of those good times, eh? Because, you know, when they pull the trigger, it's when they, you know, whatever they do, it's the end, eh? So don't focus on that, you know. Focus on the many years of good times. So I'm just so lucky, and of course, he's got some beautiful children. 2 of whom are here at this kura.
Cool.
So I've got, you know, 2 great granddaughters. They look just like him. One's black like him, and one's cheeky like him. So, yeah, we see them, we see him in them, And they were over home with us over the weekend. Came paddling with us with Whaihulda for her 70th birthday. So yeah, there's just try to cherish the good thoughts. Some people, they see the ones who have gone. I don't. My daughter does, Anikaro. She tells me, often she sees him. She says what an idiot he is. And he's never in a sad space with her. So she tells me that, he says to say hi on like on a carry on. Says, I wish he'd tell me. Yeah, he doesn't, of course. But yeah, so everybody will go through their own pain in their own way. But I just say to them, hold fast to life, hold fast to life. And look at what they have left behind in terms of the pictures, the images, the children, the families, all that kind of stuff. There's so much to be positive about
it, because you can easily get sucked into the other space, eh?
Absolutely.
And obviously there was a time period of just feeling all of that mamai, feeling all of that negativity. So in those moments of grief, would you say it's also about time, and would you say people go through that at different speeds,
Yeah, well, I just spoke to another brother who lost his son. His son was, a wonderful sports person, just about to pick up a contract playing rugby over in Australia, and they lost him. Same. And ran into him, and he said, he's still, because it's very fresh with him, he's still devastated, absolutely devastated. I just talked to him about what I'd been through and didn't try to tell him what he had to do or anything like that, but just gave him a few tips about the things that have been good for me.
Mm-hmm.
And, just told him, look for the good things yourself. And he himself, he was lucky his boy came back and talked to him. Wow. He said, well, you're lucky, boss. My boy's been gone 5 years, he hasn't said boo to me. So I said, cherish that,
those moments.
That's a special relationship that we don't all have, those of us who have lost something like that. So I didn't. So I said, you cherish that and, talk to him. Let him know how sad you are. Let him know how he's broken everybody's hearts. I say to people all the time, and, at a tangi, sa haere koe ki te rao, and ki te koe taku moko puna kai. Slap his ears for me. E mea tu ki aia taro ake dua, ka tai atua ki kona, ka kiki au I tōna kōtore. People laugh, but yeah. But also that other thing to look around them, look around them at others that are close, brothers, because he was a close brotherhood that he had, some of them in there from Cobb, the Circle of Brothers.
Yeah.
They were diving, playing, they all played league, and then they all switched over to rugby because their uncle wanted to win the championship they won it for him, all that kind of stuff. Kapahaka, Muri Whenua down to the Nationals and all that.
It was all there, eh?
It was all there. It was all there. It was
and that makes it hard to spot, ne?
That's what
it makes it really hard to spot when you're seeing, you have this relationship with someone, whether it is your moko or son or friend, and you're not really seeing those signs or the tohu that there's something else going on because you're seeing everything else that is good.
Yeah, and he'd also just gotten a job. It was a national position liaison for Scion.
Wow.
It's a Forestry Research Institute. I thought, he's all right, boy. And I'd in the last few years of his life, I'd I'd get up and call it all and say, so you call it a long cover. But then in the last couple of years, that I would often just not, after he'd spoken, you got it covered. Cool. And to the point where we'd go to things and I'd comfortably sit back and just let him lead for our whānau. And how they loved him up at home in Te Kau, and they used to bring him and say, come up here, we got a hui and da-da-da-da. Yeah, so you can't see it. You can't see it. Like my brother's boy, you know, just climbing that sporting thing and then lost. Just can't see it, eh?
Can't see it.
We think we can, but man, I can't. Even now I can't. So, you know, I don't hold it against anybody if it happens. You know, I say, well, my boy had it all. He had everything he could want. His deal was beautiful, good job, beautiful children. He enjoyed his life, and boom.
Still something else happening there. It's probably coming back to this thing that I've written down here and I've circled. It's around, I've never heard someone call it squeezed. I've, you know, heard the term around being pressured, but there's a lot of those things that you're talking about, you know, particularly me as a papa. I have children and there's pressures to provide. There's also all these pressures of what I need to do for myself. And so I can feel squeezed at times, but it's our... actually, I'll just give it over to you, just like to talk more about that, because, you know, there are all of these things that give us that feeling of just feeling the pressure where we're in that bottleneck there. And so, like, can you talk more about that?
Yeah, well, you know, even at my age, and I should be retiring. I'm 70 years old. All that kind of carry on, but I still feel the squeeze to do this, to do many different things, like even Hui Tāne. Even that was a squeeze, you know, I'm thinking, oh, gee, I wish somebody else would do it. But when I realised a lot of people wanted it, but nobody else was going to do it, I just rang a few people around the country and says, I'm going to do it. So wait, listen up when it comes. Then lucky to get Auckland to come home. I said, and you're going to do it. So you managed to pass a lot of the actual work off to him, and he just got me to ring a lot of people that I knew. And they all said, oh, bro, we don't hear from you as much as we'd like, but if you're asking, we're coming. So, so feeling squeezed to make some things happen, and then also feeling at peace once they happen, because once they happen, I sincerely hope, and I have no doubt, there's so much talent in there of the next generation. I can see them picking it up and taking it on. Probably in a different way to what I would want it to be, but at least they're carrying it, you know, and growing it into their world. Because I say to a lot of them, I says, I'm happy to do it, but it's your world. It was like the hikoi last year. You know, asking me to run, I said, come on, I ran the last one. And so, you know, talking to Edu, talking to Nais, talking to Te Rapatiru and others, I said, evil is
your turn now.
Yeah, no, we're here. We'll back you. Anytime you got a question, we're going to be here. But yeah.
Let me run this whakaaro by you, because I've spent a lot of time within this space of men's mental health and spending a lot of time with Tāne and trying to figure things out as to like why we are in this space as Tāne. And I had this wānanga come to me, and it was just around how I feel there's like a generational gap between all of the things that are happening at the moment. So I look at your generation, and which is the same generation as my papa, and it is that kind of āhua where it's just all action and any kind of emotion is just pushed to the side because it's all about doing the mahi. Then we come down to mai reanga. There's that kind of attitude of doing the mahi, but there's space for feelings to be expressed. And then we look down into the lower generation as an observation. It feels like there's not as much mahi, but there's a lot of emotions. And so I think there's like a generational way of looking at it, which means that there's not one answer. But I feel there's something within each of these reanga that could really contribute to creating some kind of change. Because although right now the kōrero is around speak up, I still feel that there's space for, come on, we know things are hard, everyone's going through what is challenging, but we still need to show up for ourselves, but also be able to express. And so, do you have any whakaaro to add to that wānanga around, you know, like the generational way of dealing with things?
Your generation of men are so much better than mine. And you hit it on the head. I mean, when it was action stations, man, we just hit it. You know, hardly a blink of a thought for the wife or for the children. just said, we're gone. And yet I see comments from Edu and yourself and others talking about, maintaining some space for the whānau, for the children, because we didn't, We just didn't. It was just action stations.
And when you say action stations, is that like mahi, kaupapa?
Kaupapa.
It was just whatever that was,
Kaupapa.
just drop of a hat, ne?
Drop of a hat. And the other thing too, back in our day was, we all worked, We all had jobs. So we were full on working and then we still hitting kaupapa and hitting it hard. Crack on the head here and all that kind of stuff. It just was just part of the thing. But it was just our time. That was our time. That's what it was like in those times. But watching how much time your fullest generation spends with their children is a real eye opener for me. Of course, it's what we should have been doing back then. But I can speak comfortably for all of the brothers from my time. We weren't. We just weren't. So we often look at your generation and say, "Go on, get off your ass."
Yeah, because of your experience.
Yeah.
And so you're seeing as how we're dealing with things, and it's like, oh, come on.
Yes. Even to the point where, Māoridom is going through so much. We are under attack. Blitzkrieg of attacks right across the spectrum. It's hard to even breathe. And you try to take a breath and they hit you with another one. There's all of that, and I'm now always looking to the younger ones to say, hey, what's happening? Hey, what's happening? and I'm hearing from people like Annette and others, God, we can't be waiting for those younger ones.
Well, not fast enough, eh? Too busy spending time with our kids.
Myself, go on, Annette, you're queer nama kau mātua now. But still, we have to work that out amongst ourselves, not just as one generation and another, between us. We've got to work out how we can bring the skills of those two different generations.
That's right.
Into a way so that as you're taking it forward, the children understand and buy into it. Harata was in there talking about how she brought her children up to be so strong in their kaupapa Māori and brought them back home and into aniwanu and all of that now they're saying, Mama, how come everywhere we go, we're the only one that doesn't have a moko kauai? So now, so she's getting that squeeze from her own daughter, and she's surrounded by, like Ani Karo, all of the ones up there on taumata with her, and she even here she's starting to think that way. But how the children, they are now growing into a kaupapa world that I certainly didn't grow up in, that my children didn't grow up in. Ours are kaupapa children just by virtue of the fact we drag them to this one, drag them to that one. Yeah, so children of the movement we used to call our kids. Doesn't matter whatever the kaupapa was, we were off. And he'll say and grab the kids, we'll go on a hiko, on a whatever, taratara occupation, didn't matter what it was. So. But not as much, I think probably not as much attention given to the children as children. And of course, your particular reanga, wakako i tō tātou deo, ki ngā tamariki, ki ngā mokopuna. Hei oranga mō tō rātou, he ngaro, ngā kau, wairua, so that they grow up to be more. So that the Hawaii ki hau that we have in our minds is different from our children's, it'll be different again from our mokopunas. And as long as it's a progression, as long as what we pass it in, they lift the game
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy. So, like, kind of like when I hear our tumuaki talking about changing our kura to one where it's based around whare mātauranga rather than subjects of the curriculum and 45-minute periods. I think, whoa. And wānanga style learning and the way she was describing it, I was thinking, wow, but it'd be wonderful. I can't wait for them to drive it through. Yeah.
Man, and I think that movement around, having our children in mind and allowing that to, I guess, shape how we move.
Yeah.
And I think the state that we're in at the moment and, even just this year, I've lost 2 people that I know to this taniwha, 2 last year, and they were all in close proximity, whānau or friends. And it seems as though although there's all of these positive movements and tools that are available, there seems to just be a lot that are falling through the cracks. And so when we think about, Hui Tāne, this is one of those efforts to be something that can create some kind of change, whether it's someone who's here at the hui who is going through something. But what I'm seeing there is there's a lot of people who are within services who are perhaps coming to learn some new things so they can go back into their part of the region to be able to implement. And so what do you think is something that you do for yourself to keep you in a good space?
No, I'm hopeless. No, seriously, I'm hopeless.
Wow.
I just, unless I'm working, going 100, then I get sick.
So you need to be moving there?
Yeah,
You need to be...
and I know it's unhealthy. I know it's unhealthy. I do enjoy, there's some of us, like our kids, some of our rangatai, they've got a team called, we're the hip-hops. Pops, we're the hip-hops. I said, oh yeah, we're the hip-hops.
Hip-hop.
Yeah, so we're all of that.
Hip-hops.
No, exactly. We're all of that generation, 60s and 70s. And our team, 2 have already had their hips done. Got me and another one, we're due to going to get ours done. Where it's just, we paddle in the dark because it's the only time we can get together, 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so that's good. I enjoy that bit. Having the mokopunas around, that's always good. And then just every now and then, not having the mokopunas around. Hilda and I went to a conference in Arotonga where a friend of ours really, really looked after us at this conference. And in terms of accommodation, it was, although we were attending a conference, very intense, the kaupapa was good about, the loss of their own deal in the Cook Islands and how to win it back, and strategies. So the conference was good for the mind, but the rest of it was good for the soul.
For the soul. Just a whakatā.
Yeah.
New lands and to be looked after.
Yeah.
Is there something that you feel is hard for us as men, is to be able to receive, whether it's tautoko or to support?
We're hopeless. Generally, we're hopeless. We might be happy if the wife and the kids have got it, but we don't. You don't want any of the brothers to think that that's what we're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's so etched into, whether it's the tāne psyche, or into just our makeup in a way. It's like conditioned in a sense around.
That's why when I hear you fellas talk about taking time out, I think, oh. But I still think, how positive that is. Giving time for yourself, self-care, all that kind of stuff. I think, oh, geez, what's that? What's that? Getting up, making your own coffee before somebody else forgets. I don't know. Just a lot of that stuff passed me by.
Yeah.
In my time, and I'm just not of a nature to put too much focus on caring for myself. I hope I do better for my wife and for my children and my mokopunas. Yeah.
Maybe that's something that I feel was something that we can learn from your reangas, because, if we drop down to my generation or lower, there seems to be a lot of mental activity or thought around the self, you know, meaning like thinking about ourselves too much.
Okay,
Whereas we think of like just hearing you kōrero, you don't really think about yourself at all. You're thinking about, you know, your wife, you're thinking about your children, you're thinking about your mokopuna, you're thinking about the movement, the kaupapa. And maybe that's part of like wellness too, is just being able to give more rather than just being so self-centered. So when we think about depression or anxiety, that's a lot of thinking around, too much thinking around the past, you know, bad things that have happened, or thinking too much about the future and the possibility of failure or whatever it may be. And so I think where I'm noticing is, even just for myself at times, there's a lot of mental chat. Even lower, there's a lot more, even with the introduction of social media, whereas your generation, there was a lot of outward kind of expression, such as just action. And so I'm just sort of clipping that for myself around, maybe there's just room for us to be more giving and being more outside of just ourself to be able to contribute to...
Well, I better not say anything about that then, eh?
I just think that's a bit of a gem there,
but you're right.
you know? I think
right.
that is. If we're thinking too much about ourselves, we can get caught up in the ugliness and the bad. But if you're thinking about others, you know, you're in service, you're in action, you know? But I think there's a better way to do that though too, you know? So there's what are things that we can learn within that space there.
The service is an important one for me. You know, the job I do, you know, the clinic, building houses, social services for te pane me te rawakore, you know, and I say to my crew all of the time, be thankful that we have a job. You know, the people we work with and the people we work for, they don't. And, you know, while we may sometimes feel bad thoughts about them, understand that, you know, where they are in deep, deep hole compared to where we are. We are privileged, so, yeah, we are there to serve.
And where does that come from for you? Is that just through your own experience of interacting with whānau, of rawakore? Is it you just being part of a small community like Kaitaia and seeing that in areas? Or what moved you into service or actually doing the mahi that you're doing now? Because you've done a lot throughout your life and you're still in the space of service.
It's always been there. It's always been there. And just now that we are in a position to influence a number of other people, it's just trying to broaden that base so more people have that sort of ahua, have that sort of feeling. Some really good people up here doing some really good things outside of ourselves, the kura itself, you know, apart from our trust, A&T. I think always of my sister Katie Murray and her whānau and what they built at Waitomo, of what Ricky Houghton started with he korowai. He's gone, but still, you know, they're still trying to maintain that. There's honour in service, I think. Yeah, there's honour in service. And, you know, like I'm sitting in there, I'm hearing people, and I hear it all the time. Oh, Hone and Hilda, you fellas done such wonderful things. And I drop my head. No, sometimes I just get really quite embarrassed by it, you know. It's not like we do it so everybody says wonderful people, how nice we are. We did it, well, we had our own children in that space as well, but, you know, we just knew that from our experiences that we had the ability to lead in certain things. Others buy into that, and because they buy into that, it's the collective we, that has the power. It's not just me and Hilda. But even now, you know, Hilda's been out of the kura 10, 15 years. They still talk about Hilda. They still mihi to her, you know. And we've had a new tumuaki for the last 10 years. And she's a wonderful, wonderful person. Yeah, so it
it's
can
just
get
that
a bit
impact
embarrassing. Eh?
It's all about that impact though, the impact that you've made on other people and the value that you've given to other people.
I suppose. Yeah.
But as you're saying that, you're not doing it for those reasons, and that's why you get whakamā or have that sense of, you know.
Yeah. There's no money in it. There's also no money in it.
Which is so outside of how society is now. It's all money driven.
Yeah.
You know, and so to have that reinforced around, it's not about money, it's about the kaupapa.
It's about the kaupapa. It's always about the kaupapa. And my wife's, as long as we've got enough to do what we need to do, like her and I are driving the building of a papa kāinga for our kids at home, and we're finally starting to make headway. Sometimes I'd say to her, geez, why don't we just pull back and let the kids take it? If it falls over, it falls over. No.
We're doing it.
We're doing it. Once we get started, and the other thing, of course, is that I'm so lucky to have the wife I have. You know, she's one of the strongest, most positive leaders I've ever met in my whole life. So, you know, I watched her up on the stage today, and I watch her every time we do that. You know, like, we've been together now 52 years.
Far.
I can still watch anything. Still learning. You know, my own wife, 52 years we've been together.
Man.
Still learning.
That's a huge part around, I guess, the challenges we face as men, is navigating relationships. I even think about my own experience of the times where I've been in the pits and in the holes, because my emotions have been all over the show because of tohe or altercations between women that I've been with in the past.
Yeah.
You know, even to a point I went through a relationship breakup, and to run away from my mum, I actually left the country and moved over to Australia because I didn't know how to deal with it.
Yep.
And that's where I got a lot of my learnings, though, was through those kinds of breakdowns and realizing that, man, my emotions are all over the show, and I need to actually learn and not control, but better understand this part of myself. And that's what started me on my huarahi, and, you know, being with my wahine now for 8 years. And again, it's similar in a way where I just learned so much from her. And as Tāne, in my earlier years of being in relationships anyway, there was a lot of, again, that focus on me and standing so much in the ego that a lot of things would just slip away from me. And that's when I would get into being either angry or sad, is because things aren't going my way. And so in your learning of, you know, being with, you know, your wahine for 52 years, what are some of the things that have made that last? And what are some of your major learnings being in a marriage for so long?
Just, I don't know, you know, I guess we're best friends. We're there for each other all of the time. We love each other, absolutely. Well, I love her. She'll say to people, tell people when I mention how long we've been together and da-da-da-da, and they go, wow, that's wonderful, isn't it, Hui Tne? And they'll go, the last 2 years haven't been too bad.
The last 2 years.
Oh, you know, you just got to laugh. Yeah, all that kind of stuff. So being able to enjoy one another's company.
Getting to know one another, ne?
Yeah, and like I say, you know, I heard it today. And I'm sitting there, I'm listening to it, and I said, oh, that's why. 52 years later. Okay, that's all right, okay.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so the other thing is, because I've always had a high profile and all the things. Hilda's never just been Hone's mate. She's been a strong, positive leader in her own right. So she's never had to rely on me. You know, she's never been just an add-on.
Yep.
She's
had her own.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, sometimes we'd go to different. It was when I was an MP, of course, and she'd go, "Oh God, I'm off. See you later." I said, "Oh no, we got this." No, all of these Klingons. Yeah, so I've got work to do, you know. So yeah, but yeah, and now that she's a councillor with the Whānau District Council, and seeing just the absolute quality of her work, and you know she just bombs it out to everybody, lets everybody know what she's doing. I think, wow, she's amazing. So, like I say, I'm still learning about her every single day.
And that's probably the best thing that we can do within these, within relationships, is just be open to learning. And I think more so for us as Tāne is like we oftentimes have to get over our own shit.
And that's what my wife will tell me regularly. Once you've gotten over yourself, won't it?
Yeah. And because I feel that's probably one of the biggest challenges that we do face as Tāne is just in romantic relationships, our emotions can hijack us when things don't go our way, or we're feeling like there's an element of disrespect, distrust, whatever it may be.
We have a thing about mana that women don't. And I've learned over the years that when I many different things that I've run, I surround myself with women, quality women, because if there's one thing that doesn't hold them back, it's mana. Whereas with one of the brothers say, bro, I need you to go and do this, eh? And you can see them going, I didn't know that I should be doing that. I mean, I've got my own mana.
Yeah.
They mightn't say it, but you can just
pick it up, eh?
Yeah, and you just think, oh, God, I just want the job done.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something we've got to try and get out of ourselves. When I see what's achievable with women and working with women, and how if they think it's a good thing to do, they'll just get on and do it. And if they think it's not a good thing to do, they'll tell me. Whereas men might, harbour things about, who do you think you are? My man is, actually, I'm from a longer line than you are. You might be the boss, but, he ranga tira hau, all that kind of stuff. Tends to hold us back. And I don't know, maybe it's difficult for men to sort of say, I'll hang that on the shelf. Now we're here to get something done. Let's just focus on getting it done. And if you're the lead boss, let's just get it done.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Man, that's some awesome kōrero there. One of the things that I know you are passionate about is whenua, is mana, is reo, is te ao Māori. And a big part of your work is around whenua. And do you think that's a big part of, I guess, us moving to a space of wellness, is that reconnection to whenua and reconnection to self? Or how do you see that playing out in terms of, here for this reason and for this kaupapa?
I'll give you an example. Hui Tāne. I know that we needed to pull a Hui Tāne together, right? And I knew I could make it happen. But I'm not naturally the person best to run it or to develop what comes out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So I know what my skills are, and I know what they're not. So it's the same with things about the whenua and about the reo. I know I can listen to pene tāwhara, te tāne o tō mātou tūmaki, talk about the reo, and I think, just
sharp.
Every time he talks, I think, mate, he's always asked me, do you want to sit on top? I said, hey, I'm at the back. I mean, if I see that there's a gap and the manuhiri is some, and all of the ones at the front are so young they don't know the history of somebody, I might get up. But I'm really comfortable to allow them to lead in that space, And I hear Nice, and they're talking about te taiao, and I just know she's got it. She understands it in a way that I don't. If there was a project that needed to be done, that needed to be led, driven, I'd be happy to do it, knowing that it's the right thing to do. But I'm not the person who actually understands how best to do it. Yeah. So it's also about understanding
knowing your skill set, and your role.
And in terms of nearly everything, apart from me driving things to happen, Hilda knows more than me about just about everything. And, and I'm comfortable with that, I'm really comfortable with that. I say to people, You know me, man, I'm the boss.
Yeah.
But everybody
But
knows.
really-
Yeah.
Do you really think everyone has a skill or has a role? Because that's probably some of the things that happen in those moments of feeling low is you feel worthless, you feel helpless, you feel like you're alone. But is there a whakaaro or belief within you that everyone has a place or everyone has a role and skill?
And what's the magic phrase for us to share with ourselves as brothers to remind us that we have a place. We have a place in this world, in this journey, eh? Don't ever think that you don't have a role. You know, I see some of the brothers in there that is covered, I'm not talking, mataora, I'm talking the full-on gangster stuff.
Yeah.
But they're here because they're seeking something. They want to be part of this journey and a journey for themselves. So, knowing that and understanding what is their role, what is everybody's role. I know there's another brother in there, Jay Happy. I've known from, gangster traditions from way back, but he's such a different man these days and a really positive leader of men in his own right. And just knowing that and seeing how other brothers are trying to come back. And, saying to one of my brothers, he's a gangster, I've known him for years. I said, bro, I'll always love you, you're my brother, but I don't love the gang, And him saying at a hui, I said, bro, I come here with two beautiful mokopunas. Do I want them hanging out with some of your boys? No, I don't. Do I want them to marry into your gang? No, I don't. I want them to grow up to be the beautiful young Māori woman that they see themselves being in their Hawaii ho. And I sure don't see that being, you know what I mean? So I love the brother enough to talk honestly to him about it that way, but I believe absolutely that gangs exist because, not just because society smashed us to a point where the brothers went looking for another space and found it, but because we as Māori weren't good enough to adapt so that they could come back. Yeah. So that's what I don't understand how that happens or how best to manage it or all that kind of stuff, but I don't know, someday I've had a call from a couple of major gangsters lately. You want me to go back into politics? They says, we'll be there. No, but I'm thinking I'm going to take them up on the opportunity to sit down and talk about this stuff here. Because, I love them. I'll always love them. But I just can't see that as being part of our future. That's all.
The way. And this has been such an awesome kōrero, and, it's great to have this side of you, come out. And I know if there was someone at the gates, that other version of Hone will come out where it's just all about doing the mahi, getting out there and ready for war. And, I think that's part of, I guess, what it is to be a tāne though, when it's time to show up and do the mahi, we know that we can do that. But it's having space where we can actually feel like we can rest into these other aspects of ourselves, which is the wānanga, the whakawhiti kōrero, the expression of emotions, the whakarongo. I think these are the other qualities and attributes that I guess make us whole. Because we can be seen as, just one version that people portray us to be, even though it's part of who we are, but it's not that one-dimensional way of being. And so it's just been really great to sit across from you and hear some of these awesome kōrero around why this kaupapa exists, the wawata around potentially having a 0800 helpline, where you are within your beautiful 52-year marriage and the constant learning, but also just coming back to how everyone has a role and everyone has a skill set and leaning on that. That's why I'm here. This is my skill set, is being able to kōrero and share that with people who aren't present at a wānanga like this. So I just want to thank you for the opportunity for me to come and be a part of Hui Tāne, for your kōrero. But something that I'm working on at the moment is a kaupapa called Brother to Brother, and it's the same kind of āhua. And just want to hand it over to you around, was there any kōrero that you received from a brother that you felt like, man, I really needed to hear that? Or what is something that you feel is important for a brother to have? So I just want to give that over to you for a bit of a ponder.
Yeah, I can't think of anything in particular, but I think of many moments when, you can feel the darkness is coming. And just, one of the brothers will be there. And he may not even notice. But he'll say something that'll help to lift you out of it. And that's the thing about having brothers. And being open. Like I wasn't particularly being open, if you know what I mean. But, just being in those spaces and knowing, not even knowing, and just feeling them being there or saying something, or even taking a piss out of me, or whatever, that just sort of, just lifts you. And, I've lost a couple of those sort of brothers too over the years. One in particular, and right next door to where I live, Mangu Awaro, and I miss him every day, because he was a rangatira who used to act like a rangatira and was always telling me off. But I loved him for it, And I miss him, So, and there are others. So I don't know, there probably have been some specific times that may have just passed my mind right now, but having brothers, special brothers around, and I can think of maybe just 3 or 4 over the last 50 years. Many comrades. Many comrades.
Brothers in arms.
Yeah, brothers in arms. Tame, Ken, Mea, all those sorts of guys, the boys from Ngātamatu, all that. And then there are some that you are really close to, will always be close to until the day you die, or until the day they die. And then you're still close to them. And it's to value those who are close. We don't hug and love and or anything like that. But that closeness is there.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Papa Hone. No doubt we're going to have some more wānanga over these next couple of days. But absolutely. Again, just want to thank you for your kōrero. Nau nei whāriki here. Mo tēnei kaupapa planting seeds. No mātou te waimarie. And thank you so much. Tēnā koe.
Kia ora.
Joyce.